County Commission Court, Monday, September 9th, 2013, 9 a.m. in session. Ms. Eagle, would you lead us in prayer?
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Do we have the public comment sheet?
It's right here. It has been moved around.
Okay. Does anybody wish to make public comment besides the person who signed in here?
No, that's scratched out.
Oh, that's scratched out, okay. So we know none at this time.
Item 3, certificate of completion. Item 4, approve bonds and deed and bonds. Motion. Mr. Thomas, second. Mr. Morales, all in favor? Item 5, extension activity report, each one of them, report. Item 6, public hearing, first tax rate hearing, 9 a.m. Notice of tax rate and revenue increase, FY 2014. Anyone here wishing to make comments on the tax rate hearing? It ran in the paper. Being none, we'll go on to item 7, public hearing, courthouse annex 1, 2, 3, updates, comments, and questions. Comment, we was presented a bid on the footing of the courthouse that didn't include the total envelope of the outside of the courthouse. And the committee asked them to go ahead and do the envelope and the footing together, so it'd be coordinated to look at. So we're waiting on that at this time. Any other comments, questions? Item 8, presentation and discussion of mechanical concrete road repair process by Joe Ramos, Senior Director, ACOG, and Jeff Levin, Associate Vice President, HDR Engineering Department.
Before you go to that, if I could go back to 6, Judge, and just get a motion that we did have a public hearing. and
Okay.
if we had no.
Motion from Commissioner Fowler, Commissioner Gomez, all in favor?
Good morning, Judge, Commissioners. Morning. For the record, my name is Joe Ramos, Regional Senior Director of Regional Services for ACOG. With me this morning, I have Mr. Jeff Lorenz Huff and Mr. Steve Templer with HDR Engineering Inc. out of San Antonio. As you're well aware of, with the Eagle Ford Shale upon us for the last couple of years, counties have faced a lot of obstacles and issues, and one of them primarily being damage to your county roads. You're also aware that over the last year or so, there's been a lot of discussion on the state trying to find funding to help counties fix those county roads, and we talked about where that money could come from and how it's going to flow to the counties, and we still, to this day, don't know exactly how that's going to take place. But when we looked at what was taking place and looked at the way counties repair and maintain roads, we said you can throw all the money that the state would give you into the problem, but if you're going to fix the road the same way you've always done, you're going to continue to have the same problem. And that is the way that county roads have a base set up right now. If you put a lot of heavy load on it, or if you get water underneath your top layer, or if you have increased vehicle traffic on that road, you're going to have road damage over time. So we decided to look for other options, other ways that counties could fix their roads, other than just put more money into it. And one of the areas that we found was up in West Virginia, in the coal industry, where they have the same issues with their heavy loaded trucks and increased traffic in their county roads, just like we do here in South Texas. So we went up there last year and talked to several people in West Virginia. There's a gentleman up there, his name is Sam Basana, and who we used to work for West Virginia DOT, Department of Transportation, and then went up to DC and worked there at the Transportation Department, came back to West Virginia. And when he did, the governor said, Sam, we need some help. We have a problem on our hands and we don't know what to do with it. And that problem was, how do we get rid of all the tires that we pick up on county roads? So the process you're gonna see today is not, wasn't developed to fix county roads, it was really developed to get rid of tires. But at the same time, when they found that solution, they found that it really worked well in strengthening the county roads and the durability of those county roads. So as you'll see later on, and I'm not an engineer by trade, but Jeff and Steve are, and they can talk to you about the technical aspects of this process, the physics of the process, of why it works. But the process that we found is economically viable, which means it's not gonna cost you more than you're spending today. In most cases, it's gonna cost you less when you go in and construct the road or repair the road. Also, technically feasible. What that means is you don't need a bunch of PhDs or engineers working on your county crews. Your county crews can install this system pretty easily. It's environmental friendly, two ways. One, you get rid of all those tires that you find on the road, you can reuse them, and it takes a lot less water during your construction process. And then socially supportive, again, because of the scarce resource of water, it takes less water as you're working through here, and it improves your worker productivity. The county, Guadalupe County, decided to use this process a few months ago. We had a demonstration there in Guadalupe County on one of their roads, Elm Creek Road, and we looked at a stretch of about 1,000 feet in their county road, and they had a low water crossing that was always getting flooded and pretty much deteriorating the road surface there. And then, because of the Eagle Ford Shell traffic, they were cutting across on that road from Highway 46 over to 123. So they were finding a lot of traffic, a lot of heavy load truck traffic as well, deteriorating the road even more. So they tried this process a little over a month ago. TxDOT was there a couple of weeks ago running some tests, so we're still waiting for those test results to come back. But we found that in the demonstration, it cost them less than it would have cost them if they would have constructed the road normally, by going in and putting the base that you normally would. And they were able to bury 3,000 tires in that 1,000-foot stretch of roads. So that's a lot of tires that you guys find on your county roads that you have to figure out what to do with. It usually costs you money to get rid of those tires. We'll talk to you a little bit later on how that can take place using mechanical concrete. That pretty much is the background. We talked to several other counties. What we're doing is talking to counties saying that if you already have projects budgeted in your budget, we'd like to talk to you and give you a comparison on, if you consider using this process, what it would cost you compared to your normal road-based construction. So I want to go ahead and introduce Jeff Huff again, and he'll talk to you a little bit about the process and how and why it works the way it does. Jeff.
Jeff is going to speak in just a minute as his technology cooperates with him. Okay. My name is Jeff Levinshuff. I'm with HDR. Steve Templer runs our transportation group in San Antonio. We're about 8,000 people around the world. The majority of those people are in our transportation business. At any one time, we are probably working for 20 to 30 of the DOTs around the country, and I've probably worked for every single one of them at some point in the last 10 years. We know transportation pretty well, and that's why this system, when we came across it, was of interest to us because of our expertise in that area and the public clients that make up the bulk of our clients across all 8,000. Joe gave you this information. Here are some actual photographs in Guadalupe County of the crews there. Picture up in the left, they came in and just took out the surface and base. You can see the tires that the guys are putting down. They're laid down, and I've got a small little sample that I will show you at the end. But the tires are simply laid on this surface. You can see this guy with a little nail gun nailing them together just to hold the tires in place for this phase. That's the only reason that you're anchoring them together. You can see the gravel being spread here and finally done here, dumped all at one point and then spread out, and you can see once it gets in the tires, you can actually drive on it. It's a wearing surface at that point. They came in after this demonstration and put 4 inches of base on top of this. And that's the road that TxDOT tested a couple of weeks ago. As Joe mentioned, it's not rocket science. The first time this crew built this road was this demonstration project. And they didn't have to go to HDR or to SAM for a couple weeks training. We explained to them how it worked. The tires were delivered, they got started, and they built their road. Typical county road in South Texas, needing to be rebuilt. I'm going to show you some quantity information to give you some sense of where the savings comes in terms of construction. If we look at a typical road that we would design, that anyone would design, for the heavy truck loading that we're getting to the Eagle Ford, you're looking at about 24 inches of base to support that kind of loading, which means you first have got to dig about a 24-inch channel to build back up. With mechanical concrete, we're talking about 12 inches of that channel. You might very well, in South Texas, have to stabilize that bottom. Make it hard enough so that when you bring the base in, you've got a solid surface to work on. Not an issue with the mechanical concrete. Simply looking at the amount of excavation, you can see the massive difference in cubic yards between those two. Preparing the subgrade on the left, yes, most likely in many places. Not a cost issue on mechanical concrete. Here's where mechanical concrete comes into play. We have this 24-inch hole we've just dug. You're now coming in with lifts to fill that back up. And again, 24-inch, you don't bring in 28-inch, dump it in the hole and just compact it down. You're bringing in 7, 8 inches at a time, compacting that, testing that, bringing in the next 8 inches, compacting that, testing that, and working your way all the way to the top. That takes time, that takes money, there's a cost involved in that phase. Mechanical concrete, you bring the tires in, you lay them down like you saw in the picture, they fill it up, as you saw in the picture with gravel, and I've got a slide at the end. There's nothing magic about the kind of gravel that you use either. And then that base put on top, 2 inches, 3 inches, 4 inches, depending on what the final wearing surface is. This is where the big cost savings come in. Look at the differences. $30,000 tires you can find a home for a mile-long road about 28 feet wide. Compaction, you've got to compact each one of those lifts in the traditional way. You might, depending on how thick this is, what the wearing surface is, might have one pass there. And here is a savings that may not have a huge monetary impact, but there's a psychological impact. Every time you compact these lifts, you've got to use water. And the water will run the contractor, which means we'll run you about 30 gallons of water for every cubic yard you put in. So in our mile-long road, 28 foot wide, Wilson County is buying roughly 330,000 gallons of water to be used in building that road. You might need some for that. But again, you can see the differences in the quantities. And all of this reverts back to contractor looking at the project and pricing out the work that eventually shows up on your desk as his, quote, low bid. When you get to the end, it's just like every other road you've ever had designed and built. The wearing surface, be it asphalt or concrete or surface treatment, is exactly the same. Mechanical concrete doesn't save you money here because you're using the very same material. It saves you everything under that system in reduced quantities. Steve has run some numbers using this 28-foot wide, mile-long road and using a 24-inch section. I'll tell you that Judge Keel in McMullen County hired us last year to look at his roads. And the design we came up there to handle the truck traffic he's getting was more on the order of 26 to 28 inches of base. So, an even deeper hole there. Again, with the idea, let's fix it once and be done with it, as opposed to having to fix it every couple of years. But even in this case that I'm showing you, where we're talking about simply 24 inches versus the mechanical concrete, the savings in material is like 40% savings in material. So there's an immediate cost reduction there, not to mention the speed issue. This system can actually be built from both ends of the road to the middle, because all you're doing is laying tires, which eventually will come together, and then you're laying the gravel on it, which eventually just runs together in the middle. No one would ever know or care where the middle ever was, because the middle disappears the minute the gravel comes together. So instead of the time factor, which equates back to cost, when contractors bid to you, they look at how long is it going to take me to build this road or this building, and their general conditions that they add on the end is very much a function of how long they're going to be out there working. So in a case where you can build this thing twice as fast, that number goes down, which again results in lower cost to you. This is a synopsis of all of the information that I've just presented to you. The quantities, the major quantities of all of the effort. Again, 28-foot wide road, very similar to what you see here. A little greener than we got now, but rain will come back eventually. This is a road that Joe and I and Steve saw in West Virginia. This facility is a coal transload facility on the Mahomet River. Coal industry digs up the coal, it trucks it down to this site, it's then put on a barge onto the river and floated away. These trucks show up here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, in quantities that you can see, 300 to 400 of these trucks today and tomorrow and the next day. 80,000 pound trucks showing up. The contractor that was hired to maintain this road kept logs of his maintenance on the road, before mechanical concrete was put in and after. Mechanical concrete now has been on this road probably pushing 2 years. We were there about a year ago. His calculations are his maintenance cost on keeping that gravel road up to snuff dropped 70% from the time he put the mechanical concrete in. And this road that you see is the mechanical concrete, the tires, and 8 inches of material on top. That's all it is. I mentioned the materials that you can put in it. There's nothing exotic at all in what you have to fill that with. Readily available material, stuff all over. May actually be able to use some of the road base of the road that you're digging up to rebuild, depending on what that material is. let me show you. It is in fact as simple as it sounds. You take something like that you guys probably have a lot of, that you're probably paying somebody $4 to $5 a tire to haul away, is what we've heard in other counties. A cost to your budget. There's a machine, it kind of looks like an old electric can opener, turned on its side. It takes that and turns it into this, which is nothing more than an 8-inch cylinder, regular size tires. They're laid on the base, like you saw in the picture. And again, the only high-tech portion of this whole thing is round to the eye is in the specification. You don't need to push them together to keep the gaps in between them as small as possible. You don't need to do that. Round to the eye, these spaces act just like this space. That's why we're not concerned about how big they are. The truck comes in like you saw.
And again, the reason you nail them together is that they don't move, they're just throwing the gravel on top.
The gravel is put in. Let me have just a little bit more. Okay. Spread out. And here is where what makes mechanical concrete work. Now, the loading that's applied on the tires now is there. Just like you saw the truck backhoe dumping it in. Once it's in, it's drivable. You can drive it. You can build your road on top of it. And this, the containment, is the key feature. And it's not new. Apparently the U.S. government back in the 70s started looking at this concept for loading. Sam just took it down to a very simple application of using tires that everybody unfortunately has. Cut the tires out, you can now, the tire rings now can be put in a landfill. You know that this can't be put in a landfill like this, because this floats. So it either has to be cut into 4 pieces and then put in a landfill, or take these sidewalls off, those then can be put in landfill, and what's left can be used for road construction. Joe has talked to TxDOT, to TECQ, they were out there in a demonstration project. Their only requirement is that they want him to keep a record of where you put tires in the ground. But the idea of putting them in ground, building a road on top of them, they have no problems with it. And as long as the tires stay out of sunlight, which they will be when they're built, this road will be here when your grandkids are sitting where you're sitting. Again, the key for us from what we see is the reduction in cost of building roads, the 40% savings in material, and the fact you take something which is an environmental problem, which is probably a cost on your budget, and turn it into an asset. The gentleman who provided us the tires in Guadalupe County charges $1 a tire to bring them to you like this. If you have these sitting around, less than $1 a tire, he will come and cut these out, and then you can use these in your road. So you can get rid of your tires either by selling these to him or using them for your own road construction. We did a sample cost estimation for the city of Pearsall earlier this year. They had about 1,000-foot long road, city road. Not a tremendous amount of road traffic, but it got some. We had them send to us, if you were going to replace this road in your typical fashion, what would that section look like? They sent it to us. Steve worked with a road contractor in San Antonio, and we priced out their traditional way and the mechanical concrete way. Their traditional was a 12-inch base, so it's 12 versus this. At a mile, this was 18% cheaper. You can see if we start talking about a heavier duty road section, needing more than 20 to 24 inches of base, you can see where the cost is going. Not to mention, you can get rid of all of these wonderful little things laying around. And perhaps not pay somebody $4 or $5 to haul them off, maybe pay them less than $1 to cut the sidewalls out, and you use them in road construction. Any questions?
It doesn't have, the tires, are different size tires, or?
There's basically three kind of types of tires: passenger tires, light truck, SUV tires, and then the big 18-wheeler tires. What we typically use is passenger tires,
Passenger tires.
about 8 inches or so here to here. You can use the bigger ones. In some cases, Sam has built a retaining wall over in West Virginia, 18, 20 feet high. He used this system around the edge of the retaining wall, and he used the larger tires. But all the road construction that he's doing, and I got word last week that the Department of Transportation there has got 5 repair jobs in West Virginia. They're gonna use his system on. They all are using passenger tires. The 8 inches is plenty wide enough, and it converts the loading on the top down to the foundation, magnifies that 3 to 5 times in that 8 inches. Again, because the gravel cannot expand, it's all contained within the basically 30-inch tire. And that's where the magic of mechanical concrete comes into play. Everything else is traditional stuff.
What phase do you use the 54,000 gallons of water in the mechanical concrete?
When you put the base on top, depending on what that base is, that's
It's not,
where-
it's not necessary till you get to
This-
the base on top.
This you can build in the rain if you want to, because the water simply flows through it. And that's the other maintenance, long-term maintenance reduction. The killer in roads is you build the base, you compact it, you put a wearing surface on top. Any cracks in that surface, water gets underneath it, gets into the base, washes away the fines, the little pieces of the material that holds everything together. When that gets washed away, it gets weakened. The next time load's put on it, it's pushed down a little more, the crack gets wider, rains again, more water. Next thing you know, you've got ruts and potholes. In this case, water gets through the asphalt you put on top, it gets into that, it flows through the gravel. The base, the foundation is sloped, it slopes like, and it's strong. So it does not degrade that base here like it does in a traditional. So we don't care if water gets into this. I think there's long-term maintenance issues there where that comes into play.
I guess my question more was, with the traditional, it was 300,000.
About 30 gallons of water per cubic yard is what road
And
contractors say.
on this mechanical, you don't use the water until you put the surface on.
So that top base material, it may be required there, but even in that case, you look in, forget what the number was, versus 330,000 gallons per mile.
And in Pearsall, what'd you say, 18% difference, was that based on the buying the tires at the dollar a piece, or was that based on them furnishing the tires and cutting them?
We told the contractor, put everything into the mechanical concrete price when you compare it to this traditional section that you were given. So there's 2 new costs. One is $1 per tire to get it. The patent on this costs $1 per tire. Those $2 per tire were factored into his cost when he came back and said, okay, it's like 17.5% cheaper to go this route. You all being a public entity, nonprofit entity, Sam will cut you a deal. The first project you do, or the first time you buy from him, that patent will cost you 25 cents. So you could actually build your first road Or you could go out and buy 5,000 tires at 25 cents per tire. And then use those tires however you want. You're done with him at that point. He's out of it. But his first foray into a public agency, he'll cut that dollar down to 25 cents. So you would have $1.25 to get these on site to be used.
And how many cars per month? 30,000?
About 30,000 for a 28-foot wide road for a mile is what we're figuring. They're about 30 inches wide typically.
And do you have a cost about what it takes to do the whole mile?
Total. Well, we do from Pearsall, when they came up with that 17.5%, I can send you the numbers that they came up with off of those two sections. All I remember is the cost difference was about 18%.
Every county's gonna be a little different, it depends on if you do the work yourself, if you have a contractor, the market's gonna set the cost, and where you have to bring in those raw materials as well. But what we can do, if you wanna look at it, if you already have a road project in mind, and you know what it's gonna cost you under normal circumstances, we can give you a comparison.
You mentioned wrap material in your presentation. Is it as effective as the stone that you showed there?
Yes, all of the material, Sam lives in Morgantown, West Virginia, which is where the University of West Virginia is at. So when he got started on this, he went out to their testing lab and used those materials, put them in tires, loaded them up to see, okay, do they all work the same? The only difference that he really found, all of the granular material you saw, the effectiveness of transmitting the 200 square inches of a tire load here down to the base, the only difference came with sand. A little less effective in doing that, but all of the granular material that he used, you get the same containment feature of using it.
Because of availability in our county, these guys can correct me if I'm wrong, because they're the ones that doing the road work, but our most prominent available material is river gravel. It has sand and gravel, so the two create a problem as far as utilizing that. Have you tested that?
If I could get some of what you're talking about, just a little bag of it, we can send it over to Sam and see, is there any problem in using this just as is? I've done it, there's some folks up in Sweetwater that were interested in this, and they sent me some stuff they had, can we use this? So I sent it over and he responded. If I could just get a-
Because when you're talking about different counties and the cost, the availability of stone like that, all has to be shipped in here.
Right.
And so that's
We've got something here, let's look at it and see if it's usable, because again, that just keeps pushing the cost down.
Ralph, did you have a question?
Yeah, I'm kind of curious, you keep using the term mechanical concrete, and I've not seen concrete anywhere.
I talked to Sam about that when I first heard the term and saw this, and you have to understand Sam a little bit, but his mechanical concrete, he came up with a name. Mechanical because there's no chemical reaction required here, like in cement. The concrete is his term of, it becomes basically concrete solid the minute it's put in. And
It's just a stabilization process.
if you knew Sam, you would understand why he thinks in that vein, but that's how he came up with mechanical concrete.
Ralph was one of our road hands, and when you said we didn't need PhDs anymore, we let it go.
Sorry,
See, we're cutting your cost already.
60% cut right there.
For those of you who don't know, Mr. Joe Ramos here is with ACOG, and anything that he's seen that's beneficial to the county and everything, he goes from county to county with these folks now, and he's been here on other issues. We appreciate you very much.
Thank you, Judge, and I just want to assure each of you that neither HDR or ACOG are making any money out of this. Our goal was just to go find some other options for counties to use, and of everything we found out there, this is the one that appears that it's going to work the best for all counties down here. And one thing that Jeff didn't really talk about was your long-term maintenance. You know, when you use mechanical concrete, you may have to replace that top surface after a while, but you won't have to rebuild your base, and that's where your long-term maintenance reduction costs come into play.
Well, we appreciate it very much. Thank you.
And I'll
Thank you for your
give
time,
you,
thank you for having us.
I'll try to get an estimate on a mile and see what the cost is, on what it's gonna cost me, and the cost on what you all do on this one.
So I'm gonna come back next week and
Next week.
and meet with you. Can you give us a sample of that gravel and
Yeah.
sand, river sand? And then we can have it answered.
Okay.
Thank you again for your time. Have a good day.
It's what we used for years and years for base in the county, up until, start using the caliche white, white material. And it sets up quite well, but, you know, I don't know how that would.
Let's take a look at it, because that's just one more reduction in what it would cost if we could reuse it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Judge, would it be interesting that in the county, you have a shortage prior to you starting to use this? But normally you're trying to get rid of it.
Okay, item 9, Jan Hartle, County Treasurer. Item 8, discuss take action on closing Cross Bank account for commitments.
The lady and I are still playing tag, Judge,
Okay.
the Fox Bank, so
All right, then item B is discuss and approve retirement plan for COLA for retirees.
okay. I called retirement and they told me where to look. And right now our required rate is 9.02 plus the death benefit of 0.59, which would bring the matching cost of Wilson County employees put in 7%, and we would match at 9.61%. Percent. Okay, if we go with a cost of living increase, the last time we did it for the retirees was in 2011, and we went with 2%. It would cost us 0.22, which would bring our matching rate to 9.83. And I basically figured it a little bit, and it's gonna be about, roughly about $11,000 more to get a cost of living increase.
Ms. Vernon, how does that affect your budget?
Well, we had 9.7% in the budget, so we had half it more than Jan was figuring, so it would affect our budget by about $8,000. Of course, you do have an option of, you have 2%.
Yes, but we do have, yes, we can do 1%, which would make it 0.11%. Now, I did not figure that. So, I didn't figure that, I figured the 2%. But that would be roughly, probably half of this.
The 1% will put us,
Probably about $4,000. I have,
And how many retirees do we have?
We have, well, roughly around 25 to 30 that are on the retirement right now. So that's how many we have. But we have to add the cost of living into our required rate. So it would go up for all the employees plus the retirees. Because we have to add that 0.22 to our 9.02 required rate now, which would make it 9.83% with our death benefit of 0.59%.
so it's not just we're adding to the retirees, you're adding it to the entire county.
Right, we have to add it to the cost of living rate, which would, the total required rate then would be the 9.83 or the 9.2,
Well,
9.6. So 9.
I hate to, us have to deal with it on the budget and everything, but cost of everything in the world's gone up. And those retirees are on fixed income, and I feel like that we probably owe it to them too.
Commissioner's court to decide that, so whatever y'all would like to do. So,
Any discussion, anybody want? Is there a motion to go with the 2?
yes, the 2%.
Motion, Commissioner Morales, second, Commissioner Fowle, all in favor?
No. Judge, I'll have to take a quick to this afternoon.
I'm going to pass this sheet back around if you were present for the courthouse update. You do have to sign it. I did see you had signed it. Do you remember if you signed it or not? Look on the list, and if not, I think you signed it. If you did, you don't have to sign it.
Okay, Item 10, J.H. Pullen, action on health and safety issues on County Road 331.
Good morning, thank you for allowing me to address the court. I've got a few comments I'd like to read, and subsequently, my brother's got a few comments to make. I'm here today because actions needed on County Road 331 by the county. There are significant health and safety issues that I believe you want to be aware of and correct. I'll list the agenda item as action because I believe you will want to resolve this issue today before it's too late. As most of you know, County Road 331 has a long history. You may recall back in the 2000s, the commissioner at the time told me if I raised $10,000 per mile, he would pay County Road 331 and 304. I put untold hours into that effort, getting some from landowners and the Hunt subdivision people. The commissioner and the county auditor met at my house with around 30 people, 30 families, I should say. The day of the meeting, the county auditor called me and told me that 10,000 would not be enough, but if we could come up with 10,500, they could get it done. That's what we told the folks at the meeting. When I met with the Commissioner's Court to get direction for the next step, the Commissioner reneged on the deal, and no one made him or the auditor stick to their word. Subsequent to that, I did an informal health survey. Of the approximate 30 families who responded, 40% had lung and or heart problems. I didn't bring that to the court, believing that it wouldn't make any difference anyway. Commissioner File put down rock on the whole road for the first time since Commissioner Lopez, even though it was not his precinct, put railroad rock down when he was commissioner at the request of my brother Joe Pulley. Most people agree that this is the worst road in the county for the amount of traffic it has. Much like 417, it's used as a bypass in Fort Floresville. As I reported in the early 2000s, the state survey at that time indicated that County 331 was the 7th heaviest traveled road in the county. The volume of traffic clearly has increased since that time. I provided you a spreadsheet of that data at that time and suggested that you develop a long-term paving plan. Commissioner Gomez has such a plan. Good work done by Commissioner File is being eroded. There's no material to bind the rocks. So essentially you drive on loose rock. There are now ruts in the road as the loose rock is moved over by the traffic. First, this is a significant safety hazard, and secondly, we're losing the effect of the work done to improve the road. I can easily see how a school bus is going to lose control and turn over. I'm not trying to scare you, just report that there's a strong possibility of that happening. All that driver has to do is swerve and miss a deer, hit that loose gravel, and he's going to turn over. Sheriff, I appreciate your effort in patrolling the road. Some of you may know that my wife has been under the care of MD Anderson for about 2 years. They do CT scans every 3 months. While her original problem was not her lungs, on the last visit, the oncologist said he has seen a deterioration which is a result of the environment. There's only one environment that it can be, the dust on the road. You should be aware that my brother and I have already gone the extra mile taking care of this road. After the flood of the early 70s, when the road was completely washed out, he provided all of the clay to rebuild that road. You're welcome to go and see the tremendous pit that is still there today. I provided all of the water, all at no charge. During the years when the road was a constant washboard, I built a drag and smoothed it on a regular basis. What I'm saying is we've done more than our share. It's time for the county to step up and address this road. I suspect no other landowner has done as much. Since the early 2000s, there have been many roads paved that have had little traffic compared to 331 without any contribution from the landowners. I don't need to name them, you know them. It's time to pay 331. Before I quit, just for the record, I'd like to know how many miles of road have been paved in his precinct during this past budget year. And precinct 1, Albert, what you had this year?
9 miles.
How much did landowners contribute to?
None.
Paul, 2.
Probably 2 miles.
2 miles? Landowner contribution?
No.
Ricky?
1.8.
Landowner contribution? Do we know what Commissioner Wiley's done?
4.
Does that include 307?
Yes. That's good, sir.
Landowner contribution?
None I know
In summary, they're both health and safety issues that must be addressed. In my opinion, this is more than a precinct 2 problem. It's now a county problem. You're aware of the issues. I have more than done my share. My options at this point are limited, but I am committed to protect my wife from further deterioration of her lungs. I hope you're interested in addressing both the safety and health issues. I'm interested in hearing what you have to say. Thank you. Got a copy of his comments. Does anybody else care for a copy of this? Number 1.
Mr. Pullen, after he came by the office last week, I called Commissioner File, and he told me that he had been looking at the road, and along with Commissioner Gomez and Commissioner Morales, I'll let him just explain to you what the situation is.
We are looking at trying to get some of it paved. I don't know if we get the whole road paved. We have enough money to do the whole road, but we are looking at least starting somewhere. And our biggest problem is, and I did get off the phone Friday evening with one supplier, is getting rock. I mean, we can't get rock. That's one of the biggest things. They said they might provide us 2 loads a day. 2 loads ain't nothing. And what it is, their contractors have a contract with these suppliers to do all these state roads. So that's one of the things I'm looking at. I'm also looking at seeing what a contractor supposedly, I'm gonna call him today, see what he charged per month to do it. But we are looking at it. I can't promise you when we're gonna do it. Again, it's a matter of when we can get the material. I know Commissioner Wiley, he worked for about 4 months with his material, wasn't it? 4 or 5 months, the hauling material. And he worked on it for 2 years, 307. I just inherited that road January of last year. And I know there is some rock on the road, but in 7 months, I spent over $74,000. That's the most I spend on any road in my precinct. And there is a dust problem. I'm not gonna say it's not a dust problem. There is some dust out there. But it's a whole lot smoother than when I took it over. If you don't, just watch a car drive down that road. They're doing more than 30 miles an hour.
And I believe, what was it, I think like 8 years ago, we were here sitting down, I don't know if you were here, we discussed on a master plan that we decided, how we're gonna take care of problems with the gravel roads. And I had a big issue, cause the formula of the road was gonna change and money was gonna get cut in different precincts. So I put my mind to it, and I put a master plan. And I started way down there in the county line, way in the end of the northwestern part of the county. and I worked my way down all the way to the end, and right now, I'm right here by 536 already. And if you have a master plan and say, you know what, this is my goal for this year, I'm gonna fix 4 miles of road, or 3 miles, or it depends on your budget, and say, you know what, this 4 miles in winter time, whenever we have this winter, we start working on those roads, and by the time you get done, in summer, you can start paving those roads. So you have 4 miles every year, and by the time you know it, man, you're way ahead on the game, and since I started, I got I'm guessing over 30-something miles already paved. And I never thought that I was gonna pave so many miles. And it takes time, yeah, some years you're gonna be able to do it, and some years you're not. It all depends on the weather. But like right now, yeah, you can start planning for that, and the cost, your cost is gonna go way down if you start fixing those roads. Because I mean, I wouldn't recommend, way down there where you got a precinct, I see precinct 4, they have to travel like 15 miles with their maintainer or anything just to come and grade that road and then go back. And then in a couple of days, it's all the same thing. And that's the way you cut your costs and try to pave your longest road on the far end of the county, and that way you can save money at least. But, sometimes you start doing all this and people come in and say, well, when is my road gonna get paved? It's hard sometimes, and people have to understand that you gotta start somewhere. And just let them know that the time is coming, it takes time, but it's gonna be there. And there's a lot of people that I got that been over 80 years old, has come to me and tell me, well, I seen that you paved roads this year, you paved 9 miles. What about mine? They said, well, next year, it's already in line, and I already got it on my project for next